Hey everybody, as the thumbnail alluded to, Monish Pabrai has sold off almost 80% of his Alibaba stake, but I think there's a lot more going on here than meets the eye. So I want to talk about it in this video here today. And as you can see, I'm on a website called Dataroma. This is a site that tracks all super investors and 13F filing. So the super investors are required to file quarterly these 13F filings that Dataroma tracks and lets us know the activity within their portfolio, which is quite nice. Now, I will say that 13F filings do not include stocks on international exchanges. So, if someone were to go out and buy a security on, say, the Japanese market or strictly right from like the Hong Kong market, that's not going to show up in these filings. We'll go somewhere else here in a second where I can show you that. But we're going to start here in Dataroma and kind of go from there. And first off, let's go take a look at Monish Pabrai's portfolio. Currently, he only has 3 stocks right now that are through the U.S. Security Exchange. So we have Micron, Heritage Growth, and we have Alibaba. As you can see, he reduces Alibaba position by 77%. That is a massive sell-off, I think, in one quarter, especially since he just bought this here in the last few months. When I first saw this, I thought, oh man, maybe there's something going on with Alibaba in particular that he sold off. But I've been watching a lot of his videos that have come out on YouTube where he's really talked highly about Tencent and Alibaba. So that was quite interesting and pretty shocking to me that he'd be selling this based on what's even come out recently. So now if we want to go see his full portfolio that contains stocks that he's bought in international markets, we can go over to Ticker Terminal. And I have an affiliate link down in the description if you want to get access to Ticker Terminal. It's no cost to you. What it does give you is also the global screener. So you could go to Ticker Terminal and just sign up for a free account there. If you go through my affiliate link, you get this global screener, which is pretty nice. But today we're going to go through Track Investing Gurus. And from here, we'll go to this value section here, and you can say Pabrai Investment Funds. So this is Monish Pabrai's fund. And here you get to see all his stocks, not just the U.S. stocks or from the U.S. Stock Exchange, all his international stocks as well. And you can see, let me kind of blow this up a little bit so it's a little easier to read. You can see he's selling off a lot of stocks. So he's selling off this Edelweiss Financials. You're talking about 18% sell off there, nice holdings. 7% sell off Suntech, 25%. Shinnikin, almost 15%. Rain Industry, 71%. Indian Energy, 48%. Alibaba, 77%. So it's not just Alibaba. Obviously, that was a big sell-off, Alibaba within itself, but he is selling a ton of different stocks. You're talking millions and $1 million worth of stocks across the board. So I found that extremely interesting. So the only stocks, there's 2 stocks, I guess, that he increased his position. So Micron, he increased by about 1%. So he's obviously still bullish about Micron. He did nothing with Heritage Growth Properties, so he obviously is pretty bullish on that. And then Racis, I think that's how you say it. This one, he did increase his stake by 100%, which is pretty big. But all the other stakes, he reduced his position quite a bit. And the one that sticks out the most to me is Alibaba. So you kind of might ask why, what is kind of going on here? And I think let's go take a look at, before I kind of get to my, what I think is kind of going on, let's go take a look at going back to Dataroma, and we'll take a look at some other people's portfolios, other super investors, and seeing kind of what they're doing as well. And let's go take a look at Jensen Investment Management, which is right above Monish Pabrai here. And if we see this here, we can go down here, see what they're going on. Look at these selling off, man, selling up 9%, 13%, 6%, 8%. I mean, look all this. I mean, there's ADP, they added 5%, Procter & Gamble 5%, but everything else, I mean, they reduced their positions quite a bit. I mean, this is not 1 or 2% changes. I mean, these are, around 10 to 15%, even 20% in some cases. So that's interesting. Right there. So it's interesting that this super investor is selling off so much of their stock, especially at the top. Now, if we go take a look at another person, so we'll take a look at Chuck Aker. And if we take a look at what he's doing, look at this. He's reducing his positions as well. I mean, if we look at his entire portfolio, he didn't buy anything, didn't add anything. He is only reducing his positions that he has. Interestingly enough, now these are not massive moves. I mean, you're talking 0.1%, 0.2%, 2%. So certainly not huge movement, but they are all reductions in his current portfolio. If we go take a look now at David Rolfe, let's take a look at what he's going here. Same thing, look at reduced 2%, 1%, 11%. A lot of reduction going on. He has one buy here for United Healthcare. But I mean, he is having mass reduction in most of his stocks as well. So very consistent, kind of what we're seeing across the board right here. Now we'll take a look at another one. Let's take a look at, see Nelson Peltz here. So he added 11% to Janus, but everything else he's pretty much reducing. We have Ferguson reduced 2%, Comcast 3%, Cisco 25%, Procter & Gamble 9%. So a lot of reduction. So, you know, I'm not saying every single super investor is selling off, but I gotta say a lot of them that I follow closely, that I have a lot of respect for, are selling off right now, which is interestingly enough. So what is going on? What is my thoughts on what's happening with the market, and in particular these super investors? Why are so many of them selling off? And I think we have to go back to David Tepper. If we go back and look at the super investor summaries right here, and we'll find David Tepper. David Tepper's right here. He runs Appaloosa Management. If you don't know who David Tepper is, he's a billionaire. He actually owns the Carolina Panthers. Now, he has created his huge fortune from the market, obviously owning Carolina Panthers now, has increased his net worth, but he started out getting all his money really from investments and the stock market. And if we take a look at his portfolio in particular, and we look at his activity over the last couple of quarters, we're seeing massive reductions. Going back to even last quarter, so second quarter, he was selling off a ton of stuff. Obviously, he was buying some stuff last quarter, but very small percentages. He's selling off mass amount. Even Micron, that at MOHNIsh PABRAI increased slightly this past quarter. He's reduced his position from like 25% of his portfolio down to almost 10% of his portfolio. He's been selling off a lot in this last quarter. I mean, a lot of stocks he sold off 100%, and just massive reductions on everything else. And it's interesting because back in March of this year, David Tepper said, you know, best place to put your money is in the stock market. I'm putting my money in the stock market. His tune has changed the last couple of months. In fact, if we go to this CNBC article and this video of him, I'm not going to play the video. I'll just kind of give you guys a Cliff Notes version of it. But David Tepper says, I don't think it's a great investment right here. And he's talking about the stock market right now. He says, and this is an interview in October, mid-October. I just don't know how interest rates are going to behave next year. I don't think there's any great asset class right now. And because I mean, he's selling out of everything pretty much, or reducing his position in a lot of stuff. I don't love stocks. I don't love bonds. I don't love junk bonds. So interesting. He just does not like the market at all right now. If we go down here, it says the founder of Appaloosa Management, which is David Tepper, whose comments have been known to move market, said his hedge fund has been probably too conservative this year, but has done okay because of its bets on commodities and oils. He says, we continue to keep that exposure relatively low, but keep investing. I think I stay invested in the stock market to some extent, but don't have your highest concentration you've ever had. Tepper said. Tepper stressed, though, it's not nowhere near time to short the market, but he still believes equities make a long-term great investment that everyone should own in their portfolio. So just kind of summarize, he's kind of saying, I wouldn't short the market by any means, but it's not particularly a great investment right now. So why is that? And simply put, it has to do with inflation. So we've seen here recently that inflation has really been ticking up, which I think is kind of funny because the Biden administration, even the Fed has kind of been pushing everything down, saying, "Oh, we're not really seeing a lot of inflation, nothing to worry about here." But a lot of the inflation rates that the Fed is looking at, is not looking at gas prices and other commodity type stuff, which we know as not just investors, but people here living in the United States. I mean, you're seeing, food going up 8-9% from the prior year. We're seeing obviously gas prices just doubling since, a year ago. And this is affecting people's spending, and ultimately it's going to affect the markets. Another thing David Tepper talks about, he says, if we are going to sit here with 1.6% on the 10-year Treasury yield after the Fed announces tapering, then you could get a rally. There might be a trading rally. You might get 5 to 10% up. I'll go in and get out. So very, very interesting. And the Fed has talked about starting to taper, in November. So what are kind of my thoughts on all this? And, I'm certainly not one that likes to project what's going to happen in the market because honestly, nobody knows what's going to happen. I know long-term, 5-10 years out, the market's going to be more than what it is now. But what's going to happen in the next year or 2 years and so on, it's hard to say. Now, I will say, some comments I've made over the last couple months on people commenting on my videos who have asked about this in particular. I have said that I'm not so concerned about this year stock market, but more so going into next year. And the reason for that is all this money that's been pumped into the market from the Fed last year for stimulus going into this year. I mean, people, kind of forgot about, but there's millions of households right now that are getting money from an advanced child tax credit from the government. And a lot of people are treating this like stimulus. They're not forward thinking about what's going to happen with taxes next year. But at the end of the year, that's going to be cut off. So that extra money, whether it's $300, $1,000, whatever, how many kids, people have per household and how that's working out, that's extra money that's coming into their pocket that they're spending. And inflation happens when people have a lot of money, they're spending a lot of money. The demand for products goes up and the supply of the products isn't there. So it's creating this inflationary status from groceries, from gas, a lot of other consumer products in the market. So for me, what I'm going to be doing, long story short, is I'm going to go back to my portfolio. I have around 12 stocks, so not a lot, and kind of analyzing each one of them and saying, how are they going to do if inflation, or when inflation, because we're seeing inflation go right now, how much impact is inflation going to have on these stocks going into the future? And my guess is MOHNIsh PABRAI looked at Alibaba and said they're not going to fare so well with inflation going up. So that's how I'm going to look at it. I don't know if I'm going to be selling anything right now, but I'm definitely going to go back to my portfolio and take a hard look at what I have there. But I'm really curious about you guys. I mean, what do you think is going on right now? Are you concerned with all these super investors, especially MOHNIsh PABRAI, selling Alibaba? Are you concerned about what David Tepper is saying, that it's not a great investment to be in the stock market right now? What are you doing with your portfolio? Does this change anything on what your thoughts are? Love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the other side. Take care and God bless.